My name is Chelsea, and growing up, Hannah and I shared everything: clothes, secrets, dreams. We were only 2 years apart, but somewhere along the way, our paths diverged so dramatically it felt like we were living in different worlds. After high school, I threw myself into college, then into my career, climbing the corporate ladder with a determination that sometimes surprised even me. Now, at 32, I'm a senior executive at one of the largest tech firms in Seattle, with an apartment in Queen and a Mercedes. Hannah took a different route. She always said college wasn't for her, that she'd figure things out as she went along. Now she's 30, working as a waitress at Romano's, one of those mid-range Italian chain restaurants. She lives with her fiancé, Mark, who works at the same place. They share a small apartment in Ballard, making ends meet but not much else. The difference in our financial situation makes her terribly angry. Every achievement of mine becomes another reason for her to throw a barb my way. Every vacation I take, every new purchase, they all become ammunition for her passive-aggressive comments. But despite all this, when I was planning my upcoming vacation to Hawaii, I had an idea. Our parents' 35th anniversary was coming up in 2 months, and I thought, why not make it special? Mom and Dad had never been to Hawaii, always saying it was too extravagant. Dad's teacher's salary and Mom's part-time work at the library hadn't left much room for luxury travel. So one evening, sitting in my home office overlooking the Seattle skyline, I booked 3 round-trip tickets to Maui and reserved rooms at the Grand Wailea. I could already picture Mom's face when I'd tell them. She'd probably cry. She always does when she's really happy. I didn't plan on inviting Hannah. That sounds terrible, I know, but after years of her snide remarks and barely concealed resentment, I wanted this to be drama-free. Just me, Mom, and Dad, enjoying 2 weeks in paradise. But when I announced the trip at our monthly family dinner, Hannah's reaction was immediate and exactly what I should have expected. "Oh my God, that's amazing," she squealed, hugging our parents. Then she turned to me, her eyes gleaming with what I now recognize as calculation. "When do we leave?" That single word made my stomach drop. I opened my mouth to explain that I hadn't planned for, but then I saw Mom's face, already lighting up at the prospect of having both her daughters there for this special occasion. "It would be so wonderful to have the whole family together," Mom said, reaching for Hannah's hand. "Like when you girls were little and we used to go camping." Dad nodded, smiling. "It's been too long since we've all taken a trip together." And just like that, my perfect plan started to unravel. I looked at Hannah's triumphant smile and knew I was trapped. I spent 3 hours on the phone with the booking department, trying to make this work. My original plan had been simple: a beautiful ocean view room for Mom and Dad, and a nice single for myself. Adding Hannah complicated everything. "I'm sorry, Ms. Matthews, but we're almost fully booked for those dates," the reservation agent said. "We have your parents' double room confirmed, but the only other rooms available are our luxury single rooms." I rubbed my temples, looking at the hotel's website. The luxury singles cost almost twice what I'd planned to spend by sharing a room with Hannah. "There's nothing else? No standard doubles?" "I'm afraid not. It's peak season." I could hear Hannah's voice in my head. "Oh, is it too expensive for you, Miss Executive?" I clicked the booking button harder than necessary. "Fine. I'll take a luxury single." When I called Hannah to tell her everything was arranged, her only response was, "Well, I hope you got me a room with a good view. And I'll need the flight details too." Right. The flights. Another expense I hadn't planned for, but at this point, what was another couple $1,000s? I booked her a seat next to mine in first class, trying to convince myself that maybe this would be the gesture that finally thawed things between us. 2 weeks later, we touched down in Maui. Mom couldn't stop smiling, Dad kept taking pictures of everything, including the airport bathroom signs, and Hannah. Hannah was already working her angles for selfies in the baggage claim area. The hotel was even more beautiful than the pictures. We got our room keys and headed up to settle in. My room was on the same floor as Hannah's, while our parents were 2 floors above. I'd just finished unpacking when Hannah knocked on my door. "Hey, we should take some pictures before the sun sets," she said, holding up her phone. "The lighting is perfect right now." I grabbed my sunglasses and followed her down to the beach. Mom and Dad were already there, Dad wearing his official vacation shirt, a horrifically bright Hawaiian print thing he'd owned since I was in high school. "Okay, Chelsea," Hannah said, holding out her phone. "Can you take one of me with Mom and Dad?" I took the phone, assuming this was just the first of many combinations. Hannah positioned herself between our parents, all three of them smiling as the waves crashed behind them. "Perfect," Hannah said, grabbing her phone back. "Now let's," she stopped mid-sentence, looking at her screen. "Oh wow, look at that sailboat. I'm going to get some shots of it before it passes." And just like that, she was gone, jogging down the beach. We didn't get one with all of us. I called after her, but she either didn't hear me or pretended not to. I tried to shake it off, it was just one photo session, after all. But over the next few days, a pattern emerged. At dinner that night, Hannah asked the waiter to take a photo of her with Mom and Dad, then suddenly became very interested in her menu when I suggested we take another with me in it. The next morning at breakfast, she took selfies with them while I was getting coffee. At the pool, on the beach, in the hotel gardens, everywhere we went, Hannah was orchestrating photo ops that mysteriously never included me. I probably shouldn't have looked at Hannah's Instagram that night, but curiosity got the better of me. Curled up in my room, I scrolled through her feed and felt my blood pressure rise with each swipe. Best gift ever, taking Mom and Dad to Hawaii for their 35th. Blessed, family first, best daughter, read one caption under a sunset photo of the three of them at dinner. Photo after photo told the story of a perfect family vacation, a story I'd apparently been edited out of. Even in the few shots where I'd accidentally appeared in the background, Hannah had carefully cropped me out. In one picture at the beach bar, you could see my hand holding a drink at the edge of the frame, but that was it. That's all that was left of me in my sister's carefully curated version of this trip. The next morning at breakfast, I watched her stage yet another photo op with Mom, positioning her just so with the ocean in the background. I wanted to say something, but what? "Hey, stop pretending you paid for this trip on your waitress salary?" That would only make me sound petty. I'd booked an excursion for all of us to a nearby island for the following day, an expensive private tour that would take us to see waterfalls, volcanoes, and a protected bay where giant sea turtles gathered. The tour operator had emphasized how exclusive and intimate the experience would be. Perfect for a family of 4. But that morning, Dad woke up, not feeling well. His blood pressure had been acting up lately, and the heat wasn't helping. Before I could suggest rescheduling, Hannah jumped in. "Oh, Chelsea should definitely stay with Dad. Mom and I can still go, right, Mom? We wouldn't want to waste the booking." She said it so smoothly, like she was doing me a favor. Like she hadn't been waiting for exactly this kind of opportunity. I opened my mouth to protest, but then I saw Dad's worried face. If I argued now, I'd look like I cared more about some tourist activity than my father's health. Hannah knew exactly what she was doing. "Of course," I said, forcing a smile. "You guys go ahead. Dad and I will have a quiet day." Hannah barely contained her triumphant smirk as she and Mom headed out to meet the tour guide. I watched them leave, trying not to think about the fact that I'd just paid for another experience I wouldn't get to enjoy. But sometimes life has a way of surprising you. After Mom and Hannah left, Dad started feeling better. We spent the morning just talking, really talking, in a way we hadn't in years. He told me stories about his early teaching days, about meeting Mom, about what it was like raising 2 very different daughters. When his blood pressure stabilized, we took a slow walk along the beach. The sun was warm, but not too hot, and the beach was quieter than usual. We found a quiet spot under a palm tree and sat there for hours, talking about everything and nothing. He asked about my work, not just the polite questions you ask at holiday dinners, but really wanting to know. I told him about my fears and hopes, about the pressure of being the successful one, about how sometimes I felt like my achievements had cost me my sister. After the island tour fiasco, I wanted to do something special that would bring us all together. I mentioned at breakfast that I'd love to take everyone on a sunset boat tour around the island. "Oh my God, that would be amazing," Hannah exclaimed with unusual enthusiasm. "Let me arrange it. I saw the perfect tour company down by the beach yesterday." I hesitated. Something about her eagerness set off warning bells, but Mom looked so excited that I pushed my doubts aside. "Sure," I said, pulling out my credit card. "Just let me know how much." "I'll take care of everything," Hannah interrupted, already typing on her phone. "You can just pay when we get there." The next evening, we all walked down to the beach together. Hannah was practically skipping ahead of us, phone in hand as usual, probably planning her next Instagram post. As we approached the dock, I saw a beautiful white boat bobbing gently in the water. It wasn't very large, but it looked elegant and well-maintained. Hannah immediately bounded onto the boat, then turned to face us with that smile I'd come to dread, the one that meant she was about to pull something. "Oh, Chelsea," she said, her voice dripping with fake concern. "I'm so sorry, but there are only 3 seats left on this boat. Safety regulations, you know? Mom, Dad, come on." I stood there, frozen, as my parents looked uncertainly between us. "But surely," Mom started. "We can't break safety rules, Mom," Hannah cut in smoothly. "Chelsea understands, don't you, sis? We'll take lots of pictures for you." I watched as my sister ushered our parents onto the boat, fury building inside me. Just a few feet away, I could see another tour boat, larger than the one Hannah had chosen, with plenty of room for 4 people. She had deliberately picked the smaller boat, probably specifically requested just 3 seats. I stood on the dock, watching as the boat pulled away, carrying my family that I had paid to take on this trip, out to sea without me. Hannah was already positioning Mom and Dad for photos, probably crafting the perfect caption in her head, "Magical evening with the ones who matter most. Blessed, sunset cruise, fam time." As I walked back to the hotel alone, something inside me snapped. I thought about how Hannah had been systematically pushing me out of every moment of this vacation, a vacation that was only happening because of me. She was staying in a luxury room I was paying for, ordering expensive room service on my dime, enjoying every amenity this 5-star resort had to offer, all while doing her best to erase me from the experience. She wanted to pretend this was her gift to our parents? Fine. She wanted to act like money was no object? Perfect. 2 could play at that game. Our last morning in paradise arrived with the same perfect weather we'd enjoyed all vacation. As I packed my suitcase, I could hear Hannah in her room next door, humming cheerfully. She had every reason to be happy. She'd spent 2 weeks living like a millionaire on what she assumed would be my dime. I'd watched it all with growing irritation. Every evening, I'd see her at the hotel restaurant, ordering the $75 lobster or the $95 Wagyu steak. "Oh, get whatever you want," she'd tell our parents with a generous wave of her hand. "Chelsea's got it covered, right sis?" The bar tab was even worse. Every night, she'd order 2 or 3 different cocktails, each more expensive than the last. When I asked her about it one evening, she just shrugged. "I want to try everything on the menu before we leave," she said, sipping a $30 specialty martini. "When am I going to get another chance like this?" But that was just the beginning. Room service bills piled up, midnight snacks, breakfast in bed, afternoon tea service. She treated the spa like her personal sanctuary, booking daily treatments that cost more than she made in a shift at the restaurant. Swedish massage, hot stone therapy, enzyme facials, seaweed wraps, you name it, she booked it. Then there was the gym. Not content with the regular fitness center, she'd booked private sessions with a personal trainer at $200 an hour. "He's really helping me work on my form," she'd explain, dressed in new workout gear I suspected would appear on her credit card bill too. The cherry on top was the convertible. Most guests who wanted to tour the island rented a car for a few hours. Not Hannah. She took a bright red Mustang convertible for the entire day, cruising around with the top down, posting selfies at every scenic stop. When checkout time arrived, I approached the front desk alone. The manager greeted me with a warm smile. "Ms. Matthews, I hope you and your family enjoyed your stay with us." "We did, thank you," I replied, then paused for effect. "I'd like to see the bills for each room separately, please. And could you split out all the additional charges by room?" The manager looked slightly surprised but nodded. "Of course. Give me a few moments to prepare those for you." I could feel Hannah watching me from across the lobby where she sat with our parents. She probably thought I was just reviewing the bills before paying them all. She had no idea what was coming. The manager returned with 3 separate folders. "Here we have the bill for room 512, your parents' room," he said, laying them out. "Room 714, your room. And room 715, your sister's room." I looked over each bill carefully, noting how the numbers added up exactly as I'd expected. Then I smiled at the manager. "Perfect," I said. "I'll pay for room 512 and 714. Room 715 will need to be settled separately." From across the lobby, I heard Hannah's chair scrape against the floor as she stood up. "What do you mean, separate bills?" Hannah stormed over to the front desk. "Chelsea, what are you doing?" Mom and Dad followed close behind, looking confused and upset. "Chelsea, honey," Mom started, "is something wrong?" "Actually, yes," I said, turning to face my family. "Something's been wrong this entire vacation." "Hannah, would you like to explain, or should I?" Hannah's face flushed. "There's nothing to explain. You're just being petty because you can afford this and I can't." "Petty?" I pulled out my phone. "Mom, Dad, take a look at this." I opened Hannah's Instagram feed and started scrolling. "Notice anything strange about these vacation photos?" They leaned in, looking confused at first, then increasingly concerned as they swiped through picture after picture. "Where's Chelsea?" Dad asked, frowning. "I don't see her in any of these." "Because she cropped me out," I said. "Every single photo. Look at this one by the waterfall, you can actually see where she edited me out. She's been pretending this whole trip that she took you here, that this was her gift to you." "Hannah, is this true?" Mom's voice was quiet but sharp. Hannah rolled her eyes. "It's just social media, Mom. Who cares?" "I care," I said. "I care that while you were editing me out of photos and excluding me from activities, you were living it up on my dime. Spa treatments, room service, private training sessions, convertible rentals, did you think I wouldn't notice?" Hannah had been standing there with that smug smile she'd perfected over the years, but it vanished the moment the manager handed her the bill for her room. Her face went pale. This has to be a mistake," she stammered, staring at the total. "There's no way." I saw the exact moment the number registered, around 3 times her monthly salary at the restaurant. Her hands started shaking. "I need to make a call," she said, fumbling with her phone as she stepped away from the desk. "Mark? Baby, I need your help." Even from several feet away, we could hear Mark's initial enthusiastic response turn into shouting. "What do you mean, how much?" Hannah was trying to keep her voice down. "No, listen, I know it's a lot, but..." "Yes, I know we were saving that for the wedding, but..." "No, she won't pay it, she's being ridiculous." The shouting from the other end of the line got louder. "You told me this whole trip was free. That your sister was paying for everything." Mom put her hand over her mouth, eyes glistening with tears. Dad just stood there, shaking his head slowly. I watched my sister pace back and forth, pleading with her fiancé to bail her out of the hole she'd dug for herself, and felt satisfaction. 30 minutes of tense waiting in the hotel lobby finally ended when Hannah's phone pinged with a transfer notification. Mark had sent the money, but not without a final parting shot that echoed through the phone. "I'm sick of your expensive taste and rich girl dreams. We're talking about this when you get home." The taxi ride to the airport was excruciating. Mom stared out the window, Dad fidgeted with his wedding ring, and Hannah sat rigid as a statue, clutching her phone like a lifeline. The only sounds were the hum of the air conditioning and the occasional notification ping from Hannah's phone, probably more angry texts from Mark. At the airport, Hannah's day got even worse. As we approached the gate, I watched her face change from sullen anger to disbelief as she looked at her boarding pass, then at mine. "Economy?" she sputtered. "You put me in economy?" "I rebooked the flights last week," I said calmly. "Mom, Dad, our seats are this way." After watching Hannah's behavior for the first week of the vacation, I decided to make a few changes to our return arrangements. Petty? Maybe. But sometimes lessons need to be learned the hard way. The flight home was peaceful, at least in business class. I didn't see Hannah until we reached baggage claim, where she finally exploded. "You planned this," she screamed, mascara running down her cheeks. "You set me up. You wanted to humiliate me in front of everyone." Other travelers stopped to stare as Hannah's voice echoed through the terminal. "And you too," she whirled on our parents. "You're only taking her side because she buys you expensive gifts. She's bought your love with this stupid trip." Dad, who had been quiet most of the day, suddenly stepped forward. His face was red, and I'd never seen him look so angry. "That's enough," he snapped. "You want to talk about buying love? Your sister worked hard for everything she has. She planned this wonderful trip for our anniversary, which you invited yourself on, by the way, and you spent the whole time excluding her and taking advantage of her generosity. If you don't know how to appreciate what your sister did for you, then keep your mouth shut." Hannah's mouth snapped closed. She stood there, shoulders shaking, as other passengers hurried past, pretending not to notice our family drama playing out by the baggage carousel. I called a taxi for us and turned to my sister. "Do you want to share the ride?" She wiped her eyes, smearing her makeup further. "I'll never sit in a car with you again," she spat. "I'll find my own way home." As our taxi pulled away from the curb, I saw Hannah in the rearview mirror, standing alone with her designer suitcase. A week after we returned from Hawaii, Mom called me during my lunch break. "Hannah and Mark broke up," she said without preamble. Her voice sounded tired, like she'd been dealing with drama for days. When they got home, Mark wanted to talk about her spending habits. He brought up the hotel bill, and, well, you know your sister. I did know her. I could picture the scene perfectly, Hannah, still stinging from the humiliation at the airport, being confronted by her fiancé about money. She called him a penny-pinching scoundrel, Mom continued. Said he wasn't worthy of her, that he lacked ambition. Mark said she was delusional, living in a fantasy world where money grows on trees. They screamed at each other for hours. Let me guess, Hannah threw her ring at him? Right in the middle of Romano's, during dinner service. Mom sighed. She quit her job, of course. Couldn't stand the thought of working with Mark. Where is she now? Back home with us. She showed up last night with 3 suitcases and her cat. Your old room is now Hannah's refuge from the world. I leaned back in my office chair, looking out at the Seattle skyline. My sister was back where she started, in our childhood home, probably lying on the bed I'd left behind when I moved out for college. Has she said anything about me? I asked, though I already knew the answer. She won't even let us say your name, Mom replied. Dad tried to talk to her about what happened in Hawaii, but she shut him down completely. She's convinced herself that you orchestrated the whole thing to humiliate her. Mom, you know that's not. Of course we know that, honey. You don't have to defend yourself to us. We were there, remember? We saw everything. That was 3 months ago. I still have dinner with Mom and Dad every other Sunday, but I time my visits carefully to avoid any chance of running into Hannah. They tell me she's looking for a new job, talking about moving to Los Angeles to start fresh. She still won't acknowledge my existence. Sometimes I scroll through my phone and find those photos from Hawaii, the ones where I'm behind the camera, watching my sister pose with our parents. I think about deleting them, but I keep them as a reminder. Not of the vacation that went wrong, but of the moment I finally stopped trying to buy my sister's love. Mom still hopes we'll reconcile someday. Dad's less optimistic, he knows his daughters too well. As for me? I've learned to find peace in the family I have, not the one I wished for. Every other Sunday, I sit at my parents' dinner table, and we talk about everything except the empty chair where Hannah used to sit. The next time I book a vacation, it'll be just me and my parents. 3 tickets, 3 seats, 3 people who understand that the best things in life might be free, but relationships come with a price that has nothing to do with money.